That's the other thing. It's, that was the other example, yeah.
If you have something they say, yes, this is what we agreed to, and you submit it to the committee, it's much safer for you than if you submit it before, because then your committee's probably going to change it. And you've already done changes, because like she said, it's rare that you get out of IRB without some kind of directed changes. That's not any failure on your part. It's because you have really great, experienced people who've been looking at not just research, but the human subjects ethical issues for a long time. They're really good at it. And they're going to help you have a stronger study that's going to protect human beings. And really, that's the purview of that committee, is to make sure that the human volunteers that you have in your study are protected and informed and are equitably represented. That's really what they're there to do. So,
right. And I've seen it where the person went to the IRB first, then went to the committee made changes. This student said, but the IRB has approved this. It took that student 3 years to finish because it was because the committee, because there was this fight between the student and the committee, because the student said, no, the IRB has approved it. I can do this research study. And the committee said, but we can't approve it. But I mean, it was a catch-22, and believe me, it literally took years to unravel the whole thing. So don't do that. Not a good idea.
And a lot of the times, the comps in the proposal, you're almost seeing the whole vision. You're standing
right.
on the broad perspective, and having that aligned with what you're actually doing with IRB, it really forces you to focus in on all the little details that you don't question, that you don't think about, even though you kind of, on a broad level, know that you're going to approach this person or talk to this person or give some sort of handout. It forces you to make everything. So at the same time, if you are working on both, it really will speed up the process because you're thinking on both perspectives. So if I am going to do this, I should start creating a flyer for recruitment, or I should I should create my questions. And so it's just really going to supplement and support what you're doing on both perspectives.
and it may inform your proposal, because what's going to happen is you go to do it and you go, I can't do that.
That's not going to work.
Absolutely.
And it's true, because I have sat on, when I sit on committees, and I have to admit, when we're sitting in the meeting, and people will ask me, well, okay, put your IRB hat on, Janet. How is the board going to think about that, or how is the reviewer going to think about that? And you do. You think, gee, how am I going to get these people to give me their data?
And what things justifies, what aspects justify the reason that you're doing it? On your comps, you're using the lit review, and then on your IRB, you're using that in the really condensed version to be able to justify that that's really why you're following this protocol, or you wanted to conduct this study and answer these questions. So you're constantly working with both documents or both plans.
Thanks. All right, the next question, you kind of already touched on it then, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Are graduate students required to have a faculty PI if they are conducting an independent study? And this came from a couple POP members who met each other through Publisher Parish and started a project. They want to submit to journals, and hold on, we got to go through the process. And they mentioned, well, if I have to if I have to give a PI position to somebody who hasn't been working on my project, do they get an authorship, or how does that work? Do we need a faculty PI?
Well, I can't answer the authorship question, but I can say that for this institution and our assurance that we have filed with the federal government, students are considered in training. And so we do not allow students to be PIs on expedited or full board protocols. They do need a faculty advisor if it's a dissertation or a thesis project, but that's somebody that the buck kind of stops there.
Yeah, I was going to say, how I always put it is that if something goes wrong, they have to be able to beat someone up. and they can't beat up students. So it has to be someone who's employed by the institution.
And if you're a student, you would rather somebody else gets beat up.
Now, as far as we can, that's why I can say it, because you couldn't say that.
Well, no, I mean, no, it's not about beating anybody up.
With all due respect,
No, that's
It's
why I
it is
said.
about accountability though.
No, but
Part of
it's-
it is
an issue
accountability,
of
but part of it is that you're in training. The whole
Yeah.
point that if you knew how to do this stuff, you wouldn't be in school.
Yeah.
You would be out doing it. Do you know what I mean?
And
And so the point is that if you're in training, there you need to be training with
Right.
someone. You need to have a mentor. You need to have somebody that can give you guidance. And that's why we require that somebody be there, because believe me, if they could leave you out there on your own, they would.
Yeah.
Okay, oh, I can't believe I just said that out loud.
No, that's,
They would, and so that's why. Now, we do have what's called an exempt protocol, which is things that are less than minimal risk, that we're talking, taste tests, we're talking, review of tissue samples that have been de-identified, things like that.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very low risk. I do believe that students can be PIs on those studies with an advisor. So.
the authorship, I mean, that is an important question. And that is, you can kind of deal with people that would say, would you be the PI on this? And it's well recognized. It's like a dissertation. The advisor's name does not come at the top. The advisor's name, they're the advisor. And whatever publications come out, they could be, whoever is the advisor could be, but they wouldn't be first. They could be last. I mean, so I don't.
And the reality is, as a student, if you are conducting a study, you will likely get help from that
Yeah.
person. And the end of it, you're going to want to
You're
give
gonna
them
want,
credit
yeah.
because they will have been
They
that involved with
participated.
you mostly. And because you're not at that level, as she's saying, you're not at that level of expertise where you're going to feel completely comfortable saying, I'm going to submit this and it's going to get published. Because even if you are at that level, it often doesn't get published anyway. And but another avenue would be that you also have that tiny little section where you can do acknowledgments in your articles as well. So if it's something where you kind of go into this project knowing that you want authorship and you're the only one and you're not going to give it to anybody else despite who you designated as your PI, then at least include some sort of section that does acknowledge that that person was a part of your study and